welcome to Legally Speaking with me, Tarun Nangia. Today, in the recent background of Justice Manmohan, the Chief Justice of Delhi High Court being elevated to Supreme Court, we are going to discuss Justice Manmohan, a judge and a gentleman. And of course, a time of celebration for the Delhi Bar. Somebody from Delhi has made it to the Supreme Court and a much liked judge. Of course, we're going to speak to people who have appeared before him in all these years, have seen him, and some observations, because in the end, it is a time of pride for the Delhi Bar. He's practiced here in the courts. He's walked the court halls as a lawyer, as elevated as a High Court judge in 2008, and now is in the Supreme Court. So we will discuss Justice Manmohan as judge of the Supreme Court. Let me welcome Senior Advocate Rajiv Nair, one of the top commercial lawyers at Delhi High Court, somebody who's seen on any given day going court to court for the top businessmen of this country. He's somebody who is, I think, rightly suited to comment on this topic. We have Advocate Mahesh Agarwal, who's managing partner of one of India's top litigating law firms, Agarwal Law Associates. Good to see you both. At the outset, Mr. Rajiv, your opening comment when you received this news of Justice Manmohan being elevated to the Supreme Court of India.
So, in two words, richly deserved, but belated. So, richly deserved in the sense that I have known Justice Manmohan both as a lawyer and then as a judge. And I found that he has evolved from a junior lawyer to a very good senior lawyer. And then from 2008 as a single judge to a division bench. And then finally his stint as the Chief Justice brought stability and integrity to our court, because not the immediate predecessor, but his predecessor before that, less said about him, the better.
I want to ask you that, in a sense, Justice Manmohan, a man known to speak in very measured terms, come from a very illustrious family, and now is in the Supreme Court. How are your experiences appearing before him in the Delhi High Court in all these years?
So, according to me, the biggest point about a judge is that you must be comfortable in his court. If you're uncomfortable in a judge's court, then it's not worth appearing. So, whenever we used to appear in Justice Manmohan's court, whether as a single judge, division bench, or the Chief Justice, we found ourselves very comfortable. I mean, the question is not of what is the decision in the case. Question is, you are able to present your case, the judge listens to you, and then gives a impartial verdict. Because you know when you are appearing before Justice Manmohan that what you will get is a verdict on the facts of the case, and there won't be any other angularity.
One thing that I must say, that there are judges and there are judges, but Justice Manmohan was most liked by the bar. Also, could you say that what qualities make a judge stand out in that sense? Because see, a lot of lawyers become judges when they get elevated, but some become very liked by one and all. Justice Manmohan is one such person, with young and old alike, which is senior lawyers. He is liked. You have appeared in his courts, I think, hundreds of times. What is that quality about him that you feel that makes him a great judge?
So, if you want to describe in two sentences, he lacks ego and arrogance as a judge. So there's a very important aspect, because he's neither egoistic nor arrogant. And he doesn't belong to that school who think that they know everything. They actually don't know anything, but they pretend to know everything. So he's willing to listen, he's willing to go into the matter, and he's good with everybody, except for the fact that I had a complaint that he was very bad in listing matters. He never used to list them the same day. But that's the least facet. But more than that, importantly, as a lawyer, I talked to a lot of judges, and they were very happy that he did a very good stint as an administrator. Even on the administrative side, he was very, very good and very popular amongst his colleagues.
Okay. In a sense, because he's starting, in a sense, a new, what you can say, a new part of his career. I think there'll be 3 years he'll be in the Supreme Court. your wishes for him, your good wishes for him. What is your good wish for Justice Manmohan?
I think he should continue to be what he was in the High Court, his usual self. And he's very laborious and very hardworking because, every time he used to appear before him, there used to be about 5-page notes in every matter. And then he had this notebook where he had all these precedents. So he doesn't have to do anything. He should continue as he is. He was meant to be in the Supreme Court, and then eventually he's found his way there.
Okay. That's your wishes for Justice Manmohan. I think we'll have to let you go because you have to rush to court, is what I understand.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. We are now joined by Mr. Mahesh Agarwal, Managing Partner, Agarwal Law Associates, as we all know, one of Delhi's and India's leading law firms at the Supreme Court, Delhi High Court, and other forums. Mr. Agarwal, you, in a sense, are court to court yourself many times. You go to the Delhi High Court very frequently. You have seen Justice Manmohan. And of course, there was a celebration in a sense of sorts at the Delhi bar when he was elevated. It was a much deserved elevation. What are your first few words to Justice Manmohan?
The first few words is, I think it's a great addition to the Supreme Court that we have Justice Manmohan joined there. He had a great career throughout. He became a senior counsel at a young age of 40. He became a judge at 45. Anybody who becomes a judge in the High Court at 45 with a thriving practice definitely has a legitimate expectation of coming to the Supreme Court. But still, everybody doesn't make it. So it's great that he has made it. One important thing is that everybody in the High Court I've met, whether it's junior, senior judges, retired judges, everybody hoped that he makes it to Supreme Court. There was no difference of opinion on this topic at all. I have not found a single person in the High Court or Supreme Court saying that no, he didn't deserve to be there. In fact, everybody, like Mr. Nair said, was saying it's belated. He should have come much earlier. But now that he has made it, we all wished him well.
I want to ask you that, your law firm does hundreds of matters before so many forums. And, you, in a sense, present yourself before so many judges. Like I say, Justice Manmohan, a judge and a gentleman. I mean, that is what his image in the bar. What made him stand out as a judge? I mean, if you do one or two qualities, if you can say.
See, one important quality is that he has been fair to the entire bar. He gave a very fair hearing to the juniors and seniors in a very pleasant way. And when a client comes to you, you say, and generally tend to say that so-and-so is pro-tax, so-and-so law judge is anti-tax, is pro-government, pro-tenant, pro-landlord, pro-excise. For him, nobody used any such expression. He used to decide purely on the merits of the case, purely on the facts of the case. It is very difficult for anybody to say that is pro this or pro that. And that balance which he has achieved for so many years is really commendable.
Also, do you also speak good for him because he's a senior modernite?
So, of course, he's a senior modernite. But see, another important thing about Justice Manmohan was that when he became the chief, he had the PIL roster, as you say, in Delhi High Court. And he has taken many decisions which are pro-citizen, pro-liberty, progressive, not taking sides of the government, giving stern directions to the government on many issues. For instance, there was some case with regard to provision of books and facilities to students. There have been cases with regard to admission to hospitals. He formed a committee that anybody going to hospital looking for ICU beds, there should be some committee, etc. Then he has passed directions on the Yamuna floodplain. Some temple was constructed, was completely illegal. He ordered demolition, which is a very difficult order to pass. But he did that in the interest of environment, in the interest of Yamuna. So he's had a very balanced, progressive approach, and I'm sure it will continue in the Supreme Court.
Your one final question would be your wishes for Justice Manmohan as he embarks on a new stage of his career, because these are final 3 years and the best 3 years of his life in the Supreme Court.
See, in the Supreme Court, the stress is much more. So I hope he continues to remain cool. And more importantly, what I wish for him is that he becomes part of some 3 judges, 5 judges, constitution benches, and is part of laying down the law for the future.
Thank you, Mr. Mahesh Agarwal, for sharing your observations about Justice Manmohan and wishing him well. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. And now we are joined by Senior Advocate Arvind Nair, who will speak on Justice Manmohan. and somebody who's from the Delhi bar elevated to the Supreme Court recently. So, what was your first reaction or the first few words when you heard that Justice Manmohan has been elevated to the Supreme Court of India?
We were, I think I speak for the majority of the Delhi bar when I say this, we were all hoping that he would be elevated because he's totally and entirely deserving of this, Tarun. He's been a very, very popular judge with the Delhi bar, and I'm sure that popularity will transcend and will be there when amongst the Supreme Court bar also when he during his stint there. So everybody was there was, in a way, if I may use the word, there was a sense of jubilation amongst everybody. And because Justice Manmohan is very popular, gentleman to the core, and so many good qualities. So when you ask me, I'm going to be, it's going to be difficult to pinpoint, but I will still do the best I can.
So, if you could tell me any anecdote of Justice Manmohan's court case, how he used to treat juniors, anything about him that you would have noticed, or some tale from the olden days, anything that.
As I said, it gets very difficult to enumerate, standout qualities of a person who's so full of good qualities and so many positives. But let me say what stands out about Justice Manmohan is empathy and patience. And I think this has been, very, very prominent about him. These two qualities have been very prominent about him throughout, but they were more on display during his tenure as the Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court, and before that as the acting Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court. Because Tarun, you know that it's usually the Chief Justice's bench which has the roster for public interest litigations, where there are some genuine PILs that come up. There are also those which may not be entirely meritorious. The other important duty that often, the responsibility that often is with the Chief Justice is hearing mentionings for urgent listing. And Justice Manmohan, to his credit, always heard mentionings with extreme patience. There were days when he may have spent 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 minutes on hearing this whole crowd mentioning matters. And so exhibited extreme patience. You asked me about an anecdote, and I'll tell you a recent incident which happened with me personally. So there was, in fact, the matter has been disposed of, so I'll give you some details, of course, without taking names. So there was a writ petition that was filed before an honorable single judge of the Delhi High Court. The relief claim was that for a particular sport, names had to go out of the athletes for an international meet. But before the learned single judge, counsels perhaps did not mention, out of inadvertence, that there was a last date for the names. So naturally, the learned single judge who was hearing the matter issued notice and gave a normal date, which would have been after 4 weeks or 6 weeks, depending on whatever urgency that was pleaded. And suddenly, I think a day before that deadline was to run out, the petitioners realized that, or the federation realized that the names, if the names didn't go out within the next 24 hours, the writ petition would become infructuous. We mentioned, I think I was instructed to appear for the federation. If my memory serves me right, we mentioned before the learned single judge, who rightly so said that, look, it may be better, since it's not before me, it may be better to mention it before the Chief Justice. We ran to Justice Manmohan's court, and we were in time, so we did the mentioning there. Justice Manmohan asked for some details of the matter and said that, look, it's before the learned single judge and it's today. And if your deadline runs tomorrow, what can we do at this stage? It's not even listed before the single judge, because we had to tell him, frankly, that it was not listed before the single judge. Anyways, we did the best we could, and he did not agree, and we stepped out. And interestingly, lo and behold, in about an hour, my clerk calls me and says, because I moved on to another court, my clerk calls me and says that he's received a call from the Chief Justice's court master and he wants the number of our briefing council. So the number was given, the briefing council was contacted, and the mentioning then stood allowed, and the matter was fixed for 2 p.m. before the concerned single judge. So just look at the entirety of the incident. He rejected the mentioning, but somewhere continued to think about it, and then was large-hearted enough to tell his court master to get in touch with the lawyers. So dwelt on it after the mentioning was over and he had started hearing matters for the day, changed his mind, and let the councils know that he had changed his mind. Now, I think there can be, as I said, there can be no better reflection of the empathy and the patience of the honorable judge. What can be bigger than this? Because the kind of work pressure, whenever we talk of judges, and I must first add respectfully that we are not qualified to really give any kind of certification. We do that out of our sense of respect and affection. I always like to emphasize the pressure of numbers and the workload under which our judges work. Just imagine the pressure, just imagine the numbers, just imagine the areas, just imagine the long lists for the day. And yet the judge has the large heart to change his mind and to get in touch with the lawyers and say that, look, you were right, because essentially what was being indicated was that you were right. Probably there is urgency, and therefore I'm allowing the prayer. And I don't think any other incident. There are so many tales in his long and illustrious tenure as a judge of the Delhi High Court. But there are so many incidents. But I think this is something which this happened recently, and this can I think this sums up the.
Thank you for sharing this really interesting anecdote. Sums up the man in a way. So
Absolutely, patience, empathy, wonderful human being.
One before we end the show, want to request you. What do you want to wish him for his tenure? It's a 3-year tenure. What do you want to wish him for his tenure?
Obviously, I think I speak for the entire Delhi bar when I say that we wish him all the best very warmly, and we are sure that he will bring a lot to the Honorable Supreme Court, and his special traits of empathy and patience, and I'm sure he'll shine just as he's shown during his stint in the Delhi High Court.
Thank you so much for joining us on this show, sharing your insights into Justice Manmohan and somebody from the Delhi bar, and also that anecdote which was very interesting. Appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tarun.
And now joining us is Advocate Ruby Singh Ahuja. She's senior partner with Karan Jawala Company, one of India's leading litigating law firms here at the city of Delhi. Thank you so much, Ruby, for joining us, and looking forward to some interesting points from you.
Thank you, Tarun, for having me on your show. Happy New Year to you and to all your viewers. Thank you.
Happy New Year to you too. So at the outset, what did you feel when you heard the news that somebody from the Delhi bar, which is Justice Manmohan, was appointed as a judge of the Supreme Court of India? Your first reaction when you just heard this news?
Of course, I was happy. He has been one of our very senior most judges in Delhi High Court, who has done vast variety of matters. And I think that it was very welcome move to bring him to the Supreme Court, well deserved. And we look forward to working him being our judge for, and I think it was a good news. That's all I can say.
In fact, a lot of people, when they talk about him, they say he's a judge and a gentleman. What are the qualities that, you can see in him that make him sort of liked?
He's a judge and a gentleman and a very, very pleasant personality. I think he's one of those judges who even if he's very angry with you, he does not show his anger. I have hardly seen him losing his cool in court. and or maybe, so you don't mind even when he is dismissing your matter, because it's a very pleasant experience being in his court, here, arguing a matter and walking out of it. So I think he is a true gentleman. And one good thing about this is that, our High Court, Delhi High Court, is one of the finest high courts when it comes to, especially to commercial work. It gets a lot of commercial work and IP work, and Justice Manmohan has done a lot of that work as well. So I'm very happy when anybody who has that expertise come to Supreme Court, and it's a very good value addition.
Any anecdote, any quality of him regarding junior lawyers, how they are treated in his court? Anything that you remember about him which you would like to share, or from the early days at the Delhi bar, any anecdote that you would like to share?
I don't remember an anecdote like that, but he has, as I said, he has been very pleasant in court. It's not that anybody. I've never seen him, as I said, being upset or anything. So it's always good to and that thing between the bar and the bench, when it stays pleasant, it's always very good. It's very healthy. So I think he's a very, very pleasant personality, and I'm very, very happy that he's comes to now to the Supreme Court. It's a very, very well-deserved position.
One final comment from you. What do you wish for him for his tenure? Wishing him well for his tenure.
I wish him good luck, and I hope he gets to do good work in the Supreme Court. And yes, a great inning.
Thank you, ma'am, for your time, and thank you for joining us on this special show on Justice Manmohan. And looking forward to invite you on the next one. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tarun.